Be a doctor? Have you been able to get dialysis?
There is no passage. We can't go to the hospital. There is no transport. How can go to the hospital? It's the problem of life and death.
You can't go for dialysis. Dr. Yassine, this is your patient?
Yes.
What do you do with a patient like this? How do you treat him?
He is literally in a stage of life and death. Anything can happen at any time. Even he can live, either he can die.
Last week, this school principal with an ashen face took a motorcycle over a road so badly rutted, it took us 4 hours to cross in a car. He hasn't had dialysis since. We have to be fatalists and leave it to destiny, he says. That's what's happening here. The way Katrina laid bare the abject poverty of Gulf Coast America, Pakistan's flood. In 5 days, we... There are fears that the Islamist militants could exploit. You can enjoy with your kids.
Star 99.1.
Worldwide at star991fm.com.
We will see him in the eastern sky, and we will meet him in the twinkling of an eye. We will praise him at the end of time, and we will see him. We will
Vanessa, Priya, or Vinny, ninth caller gets a copy of the DVD VeggieTales Sweet Beauty.
Don't know where to begin. It's like my world's caving in, and I try but I can't control my fear. Where do I go from here? Sometimes it's so hard to pray when you feel so far away, but I am willing to go where you want me to.
Exit 12 off of Route 287 gets you to Zarephath. The Zarephath Christian Church Gym tonight hosting the free concert. It's free, like, and no ticket is needed. But if you bring a blanket to sit on the floor and listen to Matt Moore in concert tonight, why, it'd be great if you brought that blanket to give away. We're donating blankets to the Market Street Mission and the Bowery Mission in the city as well. Anyway, concert, doors open at 6:30. See you at Zarephath Christian Church Gym in just a matter of moments, right? Wow. And of course, how are you going to get there? That's a whole other thing entirely, and that's
Do
why
you have a jetpack?
jetpack. Oh, Shelley Coleman, Star Traffic.
This report's brought to you by Xfinity, and if you're going on to the Turnpike southbound between Interchange 9 and the Molly Pitcher Service area, expect a big backup there. speeds up to 50 megabytes per second, that is, from Xfinity Internet. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Xfinity service not available in all areas. Getting you and your family home safely. I'm Shelley Coleman on Star 99.1.
If you are more than 100 pounds overweight, if your health has been jeopardized by your weight, and if you are ready to make a serious commitment to your future health, perhaps the latest weight loss surgery technique, lap band system, is just the help you need. Unlike other treatments, the lap band system requires no cutting or stapling of your stomach. It's adjustable and reversible and can be performed through minimally invasive techniques, which means smaller incisions and a quicker recovery. If you want to become the slimmer, healthier you you've always dreamed about, please join us for a seminar describing the lap band.
Eggs salmonella-free by a strict control program that focuses on keeping the bacteria out of its chickens, from breeding stock to hatchlings to laying hens.
If you can control it in the chicken, then you have control of it. It's not like other salmonella that may come in with a mouse or a little beetle or a bird that are going around in the environment.
One thing the Danes do is continually test their flocks with an antibody test that Wegener says is more sensitive than lab tests used in the United States that might miss infected birds. Another thing they do differently in Denmark is cull any infected flocks. That is, kill off entire flocks if salmonella is detected. Farmers are compensated. In recent years, Wegener says they haven't had to do much culling, and the control program costs only a penny or so per dozen eggs. But Patrick McDonough of Cornell University says that wouldn't work here.
I view Denmark like one of our states, and would that work nationwide? I think it would.
He says American farmers wouldn't put up with such large-scale wasting of their animals. Richard Knox, NPR News.
In one small neighborhood on Staten Island, the NYPD is investigating a string of at least 10 alleged hate crimes. They happened over the past 4 months. All were violent, all of them perpetrated against Mexicans. The neighborhood is called Port Richmond, and as NPR's Brian Reed reports, locals are trying to figure out just what's behind the crimes.
Police have been a 24-hour presence on Port Richmond's main drag lately. They've got a mobile command center, a watchtower, officers on horseback. And down the street from all that, there's a parking lot where day laborers like Ismael Fabian wait to get picked up for work. Fabian was born in Mexico, but he's been in Port Richmond for 8 years. These crimes are not new, he says. Only the police are. He says twice he's walked out of a store and people have jumped him from behind. One time they beat him unconscious. So it's really common. And it has been since you've been here 8 years ago. Llegaste hace 8 años. Still, Fabian didn't call the police about either of those crimes.
We were getting a lot of complaints from the community. This happened to me, this happened to me. And every time we will ask someone, especially from the Latino communities, you know, if they had reported it, they will say no.
Gonzalo Mercado directs El Centro del Inmigrante, a resource center for immigrants and laborers in Port Richmond. Police officers in New York are not permitted to ask someone about their immigration status when they report an incident. But Mercado says lots of immigrants don't understand that. So over the past year, Mercado's organization has amped up its efforts to help people report crimes. And he says that's what's changed these last few months, and for the better. Not the number of crimes necessarily, but the number of crimes being reported. According to the district attorney's office, of the 7 people arrested so far in this recent rash of incidents, 5 are black, 1 is Asian, and 1 is Dominican. None of them is over the age of 21. Community leaders like Reverend Terry Troya are trying to figure out why.
There definitely are issues of power and control in territory, and people are pitted against each other because there's simply not enough jobs to go around, not enough affordable housing to go around.
Troya runs Project Hospitality, a nonprofit in Port Richmond that works with the poor. She's been there more than 25 years, and she's watched the immigrant population balloon. According to the City University's Latino Data Project, in 2000 there were roughly 7,500 Mexicans on Staten Island. Over the course of the last decade, that number has almost doubled. And many area residents say that's caused some friction between Mexicans and other minorities. Still, Troya believes the problem is even deeper. It's what hate crime specialists call negative pulse, which also includes anti-immigrant language people hear on TV and in passing conversation.
I have kids that have come to us in our program and cried at 6th grade saying I was called a wetback in school. You know, someone hit me over the head with their school bag. That language
goes on at the junior high level. You can imagine by the time you get to high school and beyond how you're saturated.
But Reverend Victor Brown, who lives in Port Richmond and pastors an African-American church nearby, thinks the recent crime spree is less about bias and more about people hurting for money.
I am not convinced that all of the incidences are hate crimes. A lot of the incidences are crimes of opportunity.
Brown says people are targeting Mexican immigrants because they're vulnerable. Not only are undocumented workers reluctant to call police, they're also likely to be carrying cash. And several grand juries have agreed with Brown. They've indicted 4 people in the Port Richmond cases, but only 1 on charges of a hate crime, despite the fact that one victim claims his attackers used anti-Mexican slurs. And still, there are the incidents that fly under the radar, the ones that laborers like Robinson Tacha talk about as they wait for work in that parking lot. He says just the other day he was walking home from the gym,
and it was raining, and he was coming out, and one of the cars just moved to the side to hit a puddle to splash him.
After that, Tacha says the driver stopped his car just to laugh at him. He says he has no idea why someone would do that, other than the fact that he's Mexican. Brian Reed, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Progressive Insurance, helping people shop for car insurance at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. IBM, working to help mid-sized businesses become the engines of a smarter planet. Learn more at IBM.com/engines. And T. Rowe Price, understanding the connections of a complex global economy. T. Rowe Price, invest with confidence at TRowePrice.com.
Intel, the computer chip-making giant, is buying McAfee, the big security software company.
Essentially, security could just be better in a lot of these products, like cell phones and internet-connected TVs, where people are not used to installing software.
Details about the big deal coming up on All Things Considered here on WNYC.
WNYC is supported by cultural arts partner the Queens Museum of Art, presenting Target Passport Fridays 2010, a weekly outdoor festival of international film, dance, and music. Fridays at 6:30. This week celebrates the culture of India. Details at queensmuseum.org.
WNYC 93.9 FM, AM 820, and WNYC.org.
Zappos.com is one of the largest shoe stores in America. Its employees say it's one of the best places to work in the country as well. What's their secret? More on that story and all the day's business news and numbers coming up on Marketplace tonight at 6:30 here on WNYC. Wherever you go, you can take WNYC with you. Download the Early Word, the morning news podcast from WNYC's own newsroom. Top headlines on regional politics, the latest on buses and subways, education news, cultural tips, and more. You can subscribe to the Early Word on iTunes, or you can go to the podcasts page of our website, WNYC.org. 88 degrees in Central Park. Skies are sunny. It's going to be mostly clear overnight with lows around 68 degrees. The outlook for tomorrow, sunny skies, 82 the high, and finishing out the weekend on Sunday. Partly sunny to start, and turning mostly cloudy with a slight chance of showers or thunderstorm in the afternoon and a high of 83. This is WNYC FM and AM New York and WNYC.org. It's 5:30.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Nearly 2 years since their last talks, the Palestinians and Israelis will meet again September 2nd in Washington. President Obama will meet separately with the leaders of the two groups on the eve of the talks. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says the process will probably be a rocky one, as it was in the past, but the goal is to reach a settlement within a year.
These negotiations should take place without preconditions and be characterized by good faith and a commitment to their success, which will bring a better future to all of the people of the region.
U.S. officials say later rounds will probably be held in Egypt. 4 months to the day that the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded, the top government official in charge of the response to the BP oil spill says the end is near. But as NPR's Giles Snyder reports, retired Coast Guard Admiral Thad Allen is preaching caution.
Allen says it's likely he'll give the go-ahead for the final step in plugging the well permanently sometime during the week after Labor Day, as long as the testing that's being done right now goes well.
I think an overabundance of caution
we want to put away forever, and we don't want any threat of further discharge to the environment.
Allen was speaking at the National Press Club in Washington. He said daily checks of the well have not uncovered any problems. He said the response is now transitioning to the long-term recovery process. Giles Snyder, NPR News, Washington.
Well, investors have worries about the recovery around the world. That kept stocks in negative territory for most of the day, but they did come off earlier lows by the bell. The Dow ended down 57 points at 10,213. The S&P 500 was down 3 points at 1,071. NASDAQ was up a fraction at 2179. Over 3 billion shares were traded. This is NPR.
And this is 93.9 FM and AM 820 WNYC, 32 minutes past 5. I'm Brian Zimhagen in for Amy Eddings. Governor Patterson wants the developers of the proposed Islamic Cultural Center and Mosque in Lower Manhattan to consider a location change, and he says he's still seeking a meeting with the developers.
There is not one currently, and there will only be a meeting if the people from the mosque agree to meet with us. We're not pressuring them or coercing them.
Patterson told The Takeaway this morning that he'd hoped to meet earlier in the week with developers from the Cordoba Initiative, but he said that meeting was postponed because the group's imam is traveling. But the developers say they never plan to meet with the governor to discuss his offer to find another location. Starting tonight, the Brooklyn Bridge will be closed nightly for motorists going from Brooklyn to Manhattan. WNYC's Andrea Bernstein has more.
Residents in Park Slope and Prospect Heights have been getting an oversized postcard from Forest City Ratner, the arena's developer, explaining, quote, "There's a change we want you to know about. Flatbush Avenue, a major artery that goes from the Manhattan Bridge almost to the Atlantic Ocean, will go from 6 lanes to 5, where it intersects with Atlantic Avenue, another major Brooklyn street. The developer says the lane closures are necessary to make subway improvements, which are part of the project. When seeking approval for the arena, the developer had initially said the lane closing would only be for a year. For WNYC, I'm Andrea Bernstein.
The Little League World Series is underway in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. This year, the tournament will not just preview the stars of the future, but the rules of the game as well. We'll use instant replay for close calls. From Williamsport, the voice of the Little League World Series, Ken Sawyer, says this year's tournament is an opportunity for big leaguers to see the effects of instant replay on baseball.
I think there are many people who would like to see technology advance the game to make sure calls are accurate. I think that's what the jury will have to decide on the major league level after they see how it works at a level like Little League.
Host 8 international teams along with 8 teams from the U.S., including kids from New Jersey and Connecticut, and all of them vying for a spot in the championship game, which will take place on August 29th. Scientists have been releasing non-toxic gases and particles into Boston subway tunnels today. They're studying how the gas would spread in a terrorist attack. Federal officials are trying to find ways to minimize the impact of such an assault on the nation's 15 subway systems. Officials say the airflow tests will help protect the nation's infrastructure. U.S. subway systems include 810 miles of track and tunnels. The U.S. is still wrestling with how to combat terrorist threats to its mass transit systems. Nearly 9 years after the 9/11 attacks, authorities thwarted an Al-Qaeda-sponsored plot to attack New York City subways last September. 88 degrees, skies are sunny in Central Park. They're going to be mostly clear overnight with lows around 68 degrees. 82 the expected high tomorrow, and for Sunday, partly sunny in the morning, then turning mostly cloudy with a slight chance of showers or thunderstorm in the afternoon and a high of 83 degrees. WNYC, it's 5:35.
Support for NPR comes from the American Red Cross, preparing for this hurricane season to provide meals, shelter, and assistance to victims. Learn more at redcross.org.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Robert Siegel, and there was big news this week about the insides of your PC or your cell phone or just about anything with a chip inside of it. Intel, the big chip maker, is buying McAfee, the big security software company, and the value of the deal is big, $7,680,000,000. What's in it for Intel? Well, we're going to ask Don Clark in San Francisco, who covers technology there for the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
And this is Intel's biggest acquisition ever. Why are they buying McAfee?
Well, you remember in this PC business, Intel has this great big friend called Microsoft. So Intel chips run the Microsoft software, and it's been a great partnership for Intel. But Intel wants to get into other areas. And in some of these other areas, like cell phones and appliances and things, they don't have a big friend, a big software friend. So they've been realizing that to get in those areas, they have to play in software. So this deal was part of that strategy. However, it really surprised people because security software is not considered as central as like an operating system. So I don't think people were expecting Intel to go into something so specific and seemingly specialized as this.
And Intel doesn't have a big record for acquiring different kinds of businesses and expanding into different activities for making semiconductors.
That's right. They did some of that during the internet bubble, and they spent about $10 billion on a lot of sort of mid-sized acquisitions, and it really didn't work. One of the new elements in their thinking now is, instead of trying to fold them into Intel, where they kind of got lost in the past, is to keep them a separate subsidiary with their own management and their own expertise, and kind of let them be a profitable, freestanding company, at the same time serve Intel's strategic goals.
There is a tremendous amount of talk nowadays about cybersecurity. Do you think that accounts for some of the interest that Intel has in McAfee?
Definitely. Basically what they sort of said was, we've decided that it's not just about speed anymore and energy efficiency with the main watchworks for Intel. It's also about security. It's no longer kind of an add-on you can bolt on the outside of the system. You really have to build it in from the start. So one of the big ideas about this deal is to get the expertise of the McAfee folks to help Intel build circuitry into its processors that could help the security problem.
What does this likely mean for consumers, the purchase of McAfee by Intel?
One of the things it could mean is just better security in your products. So people are used to having to download and install antivirus products and other security products, and that works to some degree, but it's possible in the future that essentially security could just be better in a lot of these products, like cell phones and internet-connected TVs, where people are not used to installing software. There could be approaches to build software in that would kind of avoid them becoming targets for attackers.
But there is some skepticism about this deal. People saying, people with cell phones complain more about losing the signal, let's say, than about not having good enough security software on the cell phone. Is there a real demand for this in the market right now?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's one of these things where demand never starts until there's a really big problem. So I don't think that many people have experienced a real security problem on their cell phone yet. But you figure out, with 1.5 billion cell phones, and they're becoming more computer-like every day and more programmable, that they will become more attractive targets to hackers and attackers. And I have the feeling that it'll just take a couple of major incidents before people start worrying about this.
It's Don Clark of the Wall Street Journal in San Francisco. Thanks for talking with us.
Very good.
This week, shrimpers return to the waters off Louisiana. It's their first season since the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf in April. Shrimpers are concerned about how many shrimp they'll catch and how good they'll be. But they have another and perhaps bigger worry about the Louisiana seafood brand. From Houma, Louisiana, NPR's Wendy Kaufman reports.
Restaurant patrons here at Big Al's in southeast Louisiana are chowing down fresh local seafood.
Is your fried shrimp dinner with a baked potato and your shrimp po' boy?
But in other parts of the country, Louisiana seafood isn't always so popular right now. Mike Wasson takes me inside his vast oyster processing facility, where a long line of women are shucking fresh oysters. He says too many people outside the Gulf fear that seafood like his isn't safe.
Over 100 days, they thought seafood oil. That's what we produce in the Gulf. It's been emblazoned or branded into their mind.
De-linking those words, seafood and oil, is the challenge now facing Yule Smith, who heads the Louisiana Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board.
Right now, our biggest challenge as we look forward is the branding of Louisiana seafood. Our brand has taken a major hit.
The state is #1 in domestic oyster, shrimp, blue crabs, and crawfish. Smith says he knows of suppliers who've been selling to restaurants for 20 years, but they're no longer buying. And some restaurants have even posted signs proclaiming, "We don't serve Louisiana seafood."
They're using an oil spill against us in our own, that's a tough pill to swallow.
And not just tough, but unfair.
We're working with EPA, FDA, NOAA, Louisiana Department of Wildlife Fisheries, Department of Health and Hospitals. All those agencies right now are testing at unprecedented levels.
And so far, the seafood has gotten a clean bill of health. Indeed, Smith contends that right now, Louisiana seafood may be the safest in the world because of all the testing. But testing or not, marketing professor Jonah Berger of the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania says the perception remains seafood and oil.
Psychology
psychologists call these things cognitive associations, or semantic networks in people's heads. And the idea is, when we think about certain concepts, certain ideas, certain products, other things come to mind.
He suggests that most people didn't have a mental image of themselves happily eating seafood from the Gulf.
And so right now the only association is a negative one, so it's going to be much harder for that association to disappear.
Creating a new positive image, he says, will take a while. In the meantime, he suggests harnessing the sympathy people feel toward residents of the Gulf and encouraging them to buy Gulf products. If that and all other strategies fail, he says, marketers could abandon the Louisiana brand and sell their products generically. That idea makes locals bristle. New Orleans restaurateur Ralph Brennan says Louisiana seafood is simply the best.
The quality of the product, the freshness of the product, the taste of the product. You know, many of the products that come in from outside the United States have preservatives and other things, and I don't think you'll find that with Gulf seafood.
Price pressure from imports has been a factor for the domestic seafood industry, and the Gulf spill sent more restaurants and other buyers to imported products. Winning those customers back, says Mike Wasson of Motivated Seafood, will be tough.
What you normally have to do is discount. You have to go out there and say, okay, I'll give you this for, instead of for $1 before, I'll give it to you for 75 cents, and then maybe you'll buy it.
Danny Babin of Gulf Fish faces the same challenge.
We'll walk into the tuna processing facility.
As he shows off the 80-pound tunas lying on a slab, he talks about the hit the seafood industry has taken and what BP ought to do about it.
BP is doing an excellent job of promoting their company right now. Well, at the same time, they could be saying we're eating seafood down here every day, and we know because we're on it every day that the seafood is safe. And I would like to see BP do more of that.
BP has ponied up some money to promote Louisiana seafood, but it will likely take more than cash to rebuild the brand. It took about 5 years after the Exxon Valdez spill before Alaskan seafood rebounded in the market. Louisiana residents can only hope it won't take that long this time. Wendy Kaufman, NPR News, Houma, Louisiana.
All this summer we've been learning more about the city's past through our 5 borough historians. This week for the finale we're focusing on Manhattan. Historian Michael Michonne told WNYC's Amy Eddings that before Harlem, Chelsea was a neighborhood where many African Americans lived.
There was a large concentration of blacks in what's called the Tenderloin. That was kind of sort of the rundown area, roughly Chelsea to the bottom of Hell's Kitchen. And what happened was, after a while, in the late 19th century, there was a large influx of Southern and Eastern Europeans into that area. And there was severe competition for low-wage jobs and for housing. And there were ethnic tensions. Those tensions actually erupted in a very severe race riot in 1900. And that was sort of the writing on the wall for a lot of the blacks in that area to migrate out. A lot of them basically went northward. Some of them settled in an area that became known as San Juan Hill, and that's currently the approximate location of where Lincoln Center is today. But many of them moved to Harlem. In around the 1904, 1905 period, the housing market in Harlem collapsed, and realty companies were established specifically targeting blacks to bring them up there. And it was a very, very effective move because Harlem, of course, became the central nexus